When the game started, there wasn't any winter storm, there wasn't desert storm, there wasn't canyon storm. The arena didn't exist, and even things like Carly, the aircraft defense person, that was initially called Aldridge. So I don't know what happened there, but you could claim unlimited red and orange blueprints. So if you spent a bunch of money.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Nephisto's Legacy podcast. Today I have a super exciting guest. His name is Daniel Henderson. He's someone that's been around since the very beginning of Last War, one of the OG players. He was right there competing alongside legends like Fanta. If you guys haven't seen that podcast too, make sure to check it out after this video. And yeah, he's seen the game evolve from just a few servers to now a massive community. He was also part of the original Discord discussions and gave some of the first feedback ever to the devs, including on Desert Storm timings. And he's been through the bugs, the original Versus Arena, the first preseason that players don't even know existed, which we'll definitely jump into some more, and even discovered strategies that shaped how people compete in arms race and train troops. He's been playing for over 700 and I think it's 65 days now, or 66 days.
777.
Oh, 77. Okay. Awesome. And yeah, he has tech that's stronger than pretty much any other free-to-play player out there. So he's definitely got some great insights on the game that you probably won't hear anywhere else. So welcome, Daniel, to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Hopefully I can provide some good insights to a variety of players, from the newer players all the way up to the experienced players.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to get into some of this stuff. So, well, first off, I think this is going to be a great sequel to the Fanta interview in the sense that we're going to also cover some of the early, I guess, what it was like in the earlier seasons, maybe dive a little bit deeper than we did with the podcast with Fanta, just to really, because people love that episode, and just to, get into the nitty gritty of what it was like in the very beginning of the game. So
yeah,
kind of going off of that. So obviously you were before the podcast, you were kind of telling me about how there's obviously season 5's coming out, but you said that you almost would consider it season 6. Why do you say that?
Yeah, so in the old days, I say that I feel old now, but originally when there was only, around 200 servers, a lot of the feature updates and a lot of the things like Arena and Winter Storm, etc., what the devs would do would test it on the first 16 servers initially. Mm-hmm. So because we're the most experienced servers, they would test it on our servers and roll it out. And then this is when Discord started. We would give some of the feedbacks to the developers and the mods in Discord as to what was going on. And based on that, they would then enhance it, fix bugs, and then they would roll it out to a variety of the other servers. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so some interesting things arose as a result of that, particularly with seasons and so on. So yeah, we can get into some of that.
Yeah. So what was the first preseason that you guys had that only the first 20 servers got to play? What was that like?
Yeah, it was wild. It was actually my favorite season. So, in current seasons, you have, things like the Alliance Center you'll need to build, and you might have virus resistance, and you can only attack on certain war days, etc. Mm-hmm. The first season, this was the preseason before they rolled it out. I think it was only the first 16 servers, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. It was wild because instead of attacking a center, like your Alliance Center, mm-hmm. and since your version of Season 1, the way in which you win is essentially points based on when you're attacking other alliances, center, etc. Mm-hmm. But in the first preseason, the way it was done was you would attack cities, and so there were obviously level 6, level 5 cities, etc. Mm-hmm. But it was the top 4 was actually decided on who had the most level 6 cities and capitals. So what you would have is essentially a free-for-all where any alliance could attack any city at any time. And so it was literally like a cat and mouse of alliances, basically strategizing in different time zones. So at the time I was on server 4, and server 4 doesn't exist anymore. Mm-hmm. It got merged into server 5. But Leon, which was one of the guys from, I think, either server 17 or 21, mm-hmm. used to run Monopoly Alliance. Mm-hmm. He would tell me that he was literally waiting, based on time zones, waiting for the time when we were offline so that his members from specific time zones could attack, and they would sort of quick attack and all port in, take our cities. And then you'd have counter arguments because the limit where you could only hold a certain amount of cities was still there. Mm-hmm. So you'd have to drop a city before you claimed another city, but there was still the countdown and timer. So there was a whole politics around the strategy of who's going to take what city at what time. And yeah, it was just a free for all. Like I remember at one point we went to server, I think 10 or something, and we took down a Korean alliance that was much, much stronger than us just because we selected the right time of day. So it was basically a free for all. There was basically no rules, and it was all based on what cities you were taking rather than, points based on what
Jeez.
alliance centers you attacked. So it was much more strategic. It was a double-edged sword because being an alliance leader back then, you're basically online
Oh
24/7.
yeah.
But any of the players in the first sort of 16, 20 servers will know it was quite a wild time. But yeah, it's all changed now, and pros and cons, I guess. But
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty crazy. I mean, especially because anybody can attack any level six. I mean, did people even go for any of the others besides the level sixes?
Yeah, well, again, the way it was done is I think to qualify for the top rewards, you had to have a level 7 city and I think 3 level 6
Hmm.
cities. And then it was tiers below. So even the teams that were competing for sort of like fifth, sixth, and seventh place, they
Hmm.
were competing heavily for, the level 5 cities.
Hmm.
And, right now in the seasons, you've got where only the alliance that is attacking can attack the alliance center, etc. It's a lot more controlled.
Hmm.
Whereas back in the day, it was a free for all. Anyone could attack any players from any alliance. So you would have big alliances supporting the small alliances so that
Hmm.
they can get the level 3 and 4 cities, because then that would block, because you had to have, to get a level 6, you had to have a level 5 city connecting.
Hmm.
So there was a whole politics around the big alliances supporting the smaller alliances so that
Hmm.
that could block them from the big alliances taking those smaller cities in order to get to level 5. So it was,
Oh, I thought you meant that anybody could just spawn in it, even if they didn't have a touching city, and just go for like a level six.
well, so yeah, yes and no, right?
Hmm.
So you'd have to have a touching city, but
Hmm.
you could take cities immediately. So there was no like
Oh.
cooldown. So now when you take a city, there's like a 5 day cooldown or whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
In the first season, there wasn't. So you could take a level 3 and then immediately go and take a 4 and then take a
Oh,
5.
jeez.
So literally it would go from like, oh, our server's fine, there's no problems. And then 20 minutes later, you've lost 3 cities and your server's going, what the hell?
That's
Um,
crazy.
yeah, so it was a lot of fun, but yeah, the seasons now are
Hmm.
different. So,
Wait, so could you attack people that weren't in the mud then, like every day?
so if I'm not mistaken, I think now we've got War Day in seasons, right? So I think you
Hmm.
can attack on the Saturday or whatever it is. I
Yeah.
think back then you could attack on at least 2 days. I think it was
Hmm.
either Thursday and Saturday. I think you couldn't attack cities. Yeah, I think you couldn't attack cities except on 2 days, but I think it was throughout the entire day that you could attack,
Hmm.
not in specific time zones. Like, now you'll have like, oh, the war starts at, 12 hours after server time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, you could attack on Thursday and the Saturday, and you could attack at any time in the day.
Hmm.
Any cities, you could be hit by any alliance from
Jeez.
any server, you wouldn't know.
That's actually
um,
so wild.
yeah, so it was really fun back then. It's a shame that the devs haven't made a bit more of that because a lot of the seasons now they seem a little bit copy pasty.
Hmm.
There's always a virus center of some kind,
Yep.
etc. Not to say that they're bad. The seasons are really good. It's just I'm comparing to the first season where we had all of the politics and all of the war all the time. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. No, definitely. I think. Well, that was my first impression too of because I'm only in season two. So whenever season one obviously is kind of a big rush. It's super exciting. You're just like, wow, this is crazy. Like all these different alliances and servers that are porting in. You got to defend your land. You got to take other people's land. And then you go to season two and it's like, okay, it's definitely a lot more slow paced. But the beginning, I feel like, is all the same. It's like you have your certain resource and or maybe two resources that are unique to that season. You have your little scouts that do something different, even though essentially it's almost like the same thing. And
yeah,
you basically just kill the different monsters, the stronger that your certain buildings get,
yeah,
in resistance or whatever it is, you know. So I was
yeah,
like, okay, it's basically the same thing as season one, minus obviously there's different graphics, and then eventually there's a little bit of shift as the season progresses with like furnace wars and that kind of thing. But
yeah,
yeah, I think there's definitely like a lot of similarities more so at the
yeah.
beginning of the start of the seasons.
Yeah, because also in the first season as well, there were so many bugs.
Hmm.
So obviously the devs have made a massive improvement into the game stability. But back in the day, when 1,000 players would port in out of nowhere to a server, you'd have literal game freezes. So they'd have to reset
Oh wow,
parts of the game. We literally had a couple of circumstances where on War Day, literally the servers crashed and everyone was just ported out.
that's
Um,
crazy.
Yeah, it doesn't happen anymore. And credit to the developers, they've done a lot to enhance the game stability. But yeah, there was a lot of that going on back then.
Yeah, wow. What was the first skin event like?
It was actually, so that's really interesting. So you know how red blueprints are obviously really hard to get?
Mm-hmm.
In the first original skin event, when the red blueprints and the orange blueprints came out, they came out about, I don't know, 18 months ago, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because people didn't know, even the top players didn't know what they were or how powerful they are. And I guess the developers didn't, they didn't know how rare to make them.
Mm-hmm.
In the first event where there was a skin event, obviously you could claim a skin. I think there was a drone skin, the original Christmas skin, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But you could claim unlimited red and orange blueprints, I think.
Oh wow.
So if you spent a bunch of money in the first event where you could get those red blueprints,
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, I think it was either 100 or unlimited or something silly like that.
Jeez.
They've obviously clamped down on that now.
Oh
So
yeah.
in most events, the max you can get is 10. But that's how a lot of the original VIP 18s, well back then VIP 17s, got a bunch of their red blueprints. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, red blueprints now are almost like one of the hardest things to get. So, what about the server culture? How did that evolve? Especially because I'm assuming there wasn't transfers always as well, especially when you have that few servers, right?
Yeah, so that was really interesting. So one of the reasons they brought out things like the seasons and, Desert Storm or Winter Storm, etc., is because the activity on the servers, the older servers, drastically decreased.
Mm-hmm.
So in the original days, right, when the game started, there wasn't any Winter Storm, there wasn't Desert Storm, there wasn't Canyon Storm, the arena didn't exist, your verse battles against other alliances, none of that existed, right? But obviously every player on the game was all new, so they were always upskilling, and this is when alliances weren't as massive. I remember when I first started, I didn't know what an alliance was and all the alliances were battling to take the key cities, right? So
Mm-hmm.
initially the game was a lot more inter server battles between different alliances for power and for things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But as the alliances they got a lot calmer, a lot more integrated. A lot of that inter-server conflict died down. So obviously it was a good thing that they brought out the arena and verse, etc., because it allowed us to interact with the other servers more. But in terms of before transfer surge, so there are a bunch of servers that actually don't technically exist anymore. So server 1 and 2 doesn't exist. Server 4, the original server I'm from, doesn't exist anymore. And I think it was only the original 20 servers. So what they did long before transfer surge existed, what they would do is they would merge servers together, because as you'll be aware, on any server, let's say you have 1,000 players playing on that server at any given time, right, as an example,
Yep.
there will be some players that stop playing the game,
Mm-hmm.
and so the quantity of players on the server will decrease.
Mm-hmm.
Now in the early days before transfer surge, the only way the developers could fix that when you'd have a dying server is to merge servers together. So in the case of server 4 got merged into server 5, so all the alliances got ported over there. So that's how they sort of pseudo fixed some aspects of the issues. It's still a problem on probably the original, say, 50 servers. Even though we have transfer surge now, you'll note if you ever get a link to one of the original servers, there's far fewer players on those servers, because just for the sake of time, over time players will quit. So the only way we get new players is for players to join from other servers, right? So initially when players would join the game, they would just join on whatever server they were given. Now when players join the game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that they can choose a server. Well, if you're starting the game, the last server you're going to go to is where everyone's over 250 mil power, right? So
Right.
the new players generally start on the newer servers. So it means that the old servers don't get new players. So whilst transfer surge is good, there still is a problem with probably, the original, say, 40 to 50 servers, where there's quite a few servers with not many alliances and not many players. A lot of strength, but not necessarily a lot of players. So like in server 5, we have like 4 or 5 alliances that are quite good. But basically after the top 2 alliances, the power level drops off because there's not anywhere near as many players as perhaps your server, right? So,
Yeah, that makes sense. What about, I guess, things like exclusive weapons and heroes and stuff like that? How are they different back then compared to now?
yeah, so when I started, there was no exclusive weapons, and actually many of the characters didn't exist. So things like Lucius, Morrison, a lot of those didn't exist. So players would use a mixture of UR characters and SSR characters in their teams initially. So yeah, there was far less players, and even things like Carly, the aircraft defense person, that was initially called Aldridge.
Oh
So I
wow.
don't know what happened there, but initially his name was Aldridge, and somewhere out of nowhere they changed it to Carly. So, and they never reused it. So I don't know what happened with Aldridge. So
That's
maybe you
interesting.
can put a hashtag to the devs. What happened to Aldridge?
Yeah, bring back
um,
Aldridge.
yeah, bring back Aldridge. Yeah, so there was no exclusive weapons. There was far fewer characters. There was no blueprints. So
Mm,
maxing out, and actually, with your shard. There was no, when you max them out at 5 stars, there's then a center where you can max them further, right?
mm,
That center didn't exist either.
mm.
So,
You guys were like loaded up on the shards, right? At that point.
well, I mean, kind of yes and no, because when we started, it was, if you think now, right, there's Winter Storm, Desert Storm, Canyon Storm,
Mm,
there's Warzone Duel, there's all of these events where you can get shards. Back when we started, none of those events existed. So there was far fewer chances to get things like shards.
mm,
So even things like speed ups were far harder to get because there was far
mm,
less opportunities to get them. So we weren't necessarily all maxing out, but that's one of the reasons why they brought things like exclusive weapons out, because particularly the early servers, you know, after about a year in the game, we had all maxed all of that out. So yeah.
mm. What about like arena and things like that? Was arena quite a bit different, or did they even have arena at the beginning?
Yeah, at the beginning they didn't, and then they brought it in. It's slightly different now to how it was before.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously you have your two bits, but initially Arena was, instead of where what you have now, whereas you fight with all your three squads in order, you would just have your main squad, and you could just pick players and try and battle them. So it wasn't random. You could actually go and pick. So before reset on the Sunday every week, there would be like a big battle of people trying to stay in battles and trying to fight each other with their top teams, and there'd always be a bit of brinkmanships, everyone trying to one up each other. But yeah, then it changed into what you see now.
Yeah. Do you feel like you enjoyed the game better when like earlier on, or do you feel like you enjoy it now a lot more now that it's polished up and things like that?
I enjoyed it at both times. I think the game's evolved really well. Clearly, there's a lot of things that were difficult back then. Like, so, for example, I've been an alliance leader. I'm the vice president of Server 5 now, and an R4 in Liz Alliance. And before that, I was an R5 for FNF Alliance on Server 4. Just simple things like R4, R5 chat
Mm-hmm.
that you take for granted now didn't exist before. Group chats, all of that stuff, even translate. So when I started the game, there was no translate, there was no R4 5 chat,
Mm,
no group chats. So we were sort of struggling on how to coordinate
mm,
basic things. So we would have all sorts of things like we've got Discord chats for R4, R5,
mm,
Discord chats for the Alliance, etc. So there's aspects of that I much appreciated in the game.
mm-hmm.
The devs have done a great job of adding a lot of the features that make running an alliance much easier. I mean, take for example assigning buffs. So
Mm,
in the old days, there was no like automatic 5 minute time limit. You'd have the vice president and the president, literally, people in world chat would say, okay, I need the tech buff, Secretary of Science. And the VP would be like, okay, share your cords on the server. And then they would go and manually assign it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've
And
heard vice
so,
president was quite a mission back then.
yeah, it was an absolute nightmare back then. Being VP was the most, like, it was one of the most difficult things, because you'd have to manually assign stuff, and there was no limits. Now it's much easier. So I don't know, to answer your question, back then there was a lot of cool stuff. I got to see the initial version of Winter Storm, the initial version of Desert Storm, and we got to see how the game developed. But again, equally now the seasons are quite cool. The game is much more polished. It's much easier to play the game, even as if you're running Alliance. So yeah, I like both of it. That's why I keep playing the game.
Yeah, definitely. What was it like being part of the first Last War Discord community?
Oh, that was quite funny as well. So initially when the Discord launched, I think part of the reason they opened the Discord is because a lot of the top alliances started using Discord to try and coordinate
Mm,
for things like, as I said, the R4, R5 chats,
mm-hmm.
to organize things like when you're doing your, why has it escaped me now?
Oh, Martial Guard?
Yeah.
Mm,
So a lot of alliances were using Discord for stuff like that. And there were a few alliances that started to use Discord for automated bot stuff. So yeah, the Last War team obviously created the official Discord. And I remember at the time, because I had so many different groups, I remember Fanta and someone had created like a server 5 group,
Mm-hmm.
and Fanta was like, what is this, are we going to use this? And I was, just sharing memes. But I mean, literally, when Discord started, there was the main channel, and then there was a memes channel. And this was again back in the time where there was a bunch of bugs happening on servers, so you would literally have the mods like Kimberly, etc., would be just in the main channel just responding to messages, because there was no, like, now if you've got the support center, if something goes wrong in your game, there was no support center, so it would literally be, Kimberly and a bunch of other mods trying to respond to like 5,000 people, and then
Jeez.
you'd have, yeah, and there was a bunch of like bot stuff. Like there was situations whereby I think some players were trying to scam people into like coin stuff. Yeah, and then also putting, links that, to do with
Steal
adult sites.
information or yeah.
You steal information, adult sites. So there was a bunch of clampdowns on
Mm-hmm.
that. So there's a lot of good stuff, like a lot of memes were shared, like a lot of fun stuff. But again, even there, now it's much more polished. There's a support section.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have any issues, and there's, all the last one news. And again, even things like guides, right? So back in the day, our followers like me, we were literally day by day on World Chat and in Alliance Chat giving advice on what to do. Whereas now there are official guides from Last War themselves on how to do everything, from even, marshals to you name it. So
Yeah.
again, it was a bit of a wild west back then, but
Yeah.
yeah, now it's much more smooth.
Yeah, no, definitely. It sounds like it was pretty crazy back then for sure. But so what about the feedback that you gave Kimberly about Desert Storm timings?
Yeah, so that was another big thing. So initially, when you had stuff like War Day,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the events were all done at reset. So I remember one specific time when I think we had Warzone Duel, Desert Storm, Verse, and I think one other event basically all happen at the same time, because the way they did it based on server time. So, as it would go into a day, the event would start. So, particularly with Desert Storm, when it started, they only had two times. You could do it at the late time or the early time. And so the initial feedback I gave was, what about people in the European time? Can you add an option? So the middle time in Desert Storm that you can now select is because of that.
Mm.
And particularly during the seasons as well, in the initial season, a lot of the stuff was happening around reset time. So it benefited heavily the people in the, Korean, Chinese time zones,
Mm.
and people in the US time zones, but people in the UK and Europe were suffering because a lot of the events would start or be organized around, between 1 and 3 a.m. in
Yeah.
Europe time zones. So that's why you see now a lot of events, they'll start at 12 p.m. server time, as well as, at reset. So you've got a mixture of times when things happen, and you can select in Desert Storm, for example, 3 different time zones,
Mm-hmm.
for your alliance. And the same is true of Winter Storm, right? So, I gave some of that initial feedback, whether that was deliberately changed because of me, or but probably some other people had the same points of view as well. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was the basis of why all of those times were changed.
Mm-hmm. Are there any misconceptions about the early game that people have that maybe you want to clear up, or like anything that you've heard about the early games that you just feel like aren't true?
No, I mean, I would say a lot of players that are free to play, particularly new servers, but even the older servers,
Mm-hmm.
they're disheartened by the fact that players who spend, and particularly players who spend a lot, gain a lot of power.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a notion that sort of like, oh, I'll never catch up with these players because, oh, they spend a lot more than me. It's a pay to win game.
Mm-hmm.
What I'd say to those players is, as I'll show you in a little bit with skill medals, etc., if you're active and you're playing every day, and if you're doing all of the events, a lot of the things that these players that are spending a lot of money on, you can get for free. A lot of the game you can enjoy, and a lot of things you can do without spending much money or no money at all. And actually, I know a lot of players from server 3, server 4, and server 5 that spent hundreds or thousands on the game, only to then not be that active and quit. I know multiple players that spent upwards of 50,000 on the
Mm-hmm.
game,
Oh yeah.
and now I've spent a tenth of what they've spent, and now I'm a similar power level simply because I'm active and I'm continue playing, and I'm smart with the way in which I use my speed ups and skill medals,
Mm-hmm.
etc. So yeah, the only thing I'd just say is, being active over a sustained period of time trumps being a big spender. I've seen that time and time again. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. The consistency of just doing the daily tasks, doing all the necessary things that you need to do. It may be tedious, or it may not seem like a lot in the moment, but doing it over a long time horizon, it definitely adds up. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But So if there is one event or one feature from the beginning that you could bring back, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question. I guess for me, the initial season,
Mm,
because a lot of the seasons, so the seasons they're pretty much copy paste, where
mm-hmm.
you've got an alliance center, you'll have some form of virus resistance and zombies, and you'll have to get to the capital.
Yep.
Whilst they're good, they're a bit cookie cutter and copied, and I assume season five will be some version or flavor of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
The initial original season that only the first sort of 16 or 20 servers got to play was very much, raw strategy. There was much more strategy involved in actually when you'd attack, how you'd attack, getting other alliances to attack with you.
Mm,
So if I could bring back anything, I'd bring back the ability for the other seasons or the upcoming seasons to be, if not similar to the first season, add a lot of more complexity. So
mm.
you have much more strategy in the way in which you do things. But yeah, maybe I'm biased, but yeah, that's what I'll say. Other than that, I think the way the game's developed and the features the developers have added have been really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I've definitely been enjoying playing the game, and I think, I mean, obviously, I haven't been playing nearly as long as you, so my perspective is nowhere near as, I don't have nearly as much context as you have with how the server or how the game has evolved. But yeah, no, it's definitely a fun game. It's very addicting, I will say.
Yeah, I try not to spend too many hours a day on it, but
It's hard.
yeah.
But yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about kind of some gameplay strategy, since obviously you're super experienced. You've been playing the game longer than probably 99% of players. And yeah, I guess I just want to dive into some strategy, some gameplay, things like that. What would you say is the optimal strategy for training troops and like how it interacts with arm race and versus?
Yeah, so when you train troops, uh, generally what people do is they'll train the max troops that they can. So, for example, if you have level 10 troops, right,
Mm-hmm.
you'll notice here on the screen it says train a level 10 troop.
Mm-hmm.
What people don't realize is that you can actually train the same troops multiple times. So, for example, if I train a level 6 troop here, I
Mm-hmm.
can actually train the 6 troop the day before, and then I can upgrade it and promote it to level 7. So if I do that, you'll see that I get the arms race score here, but then I can then finish the training of that when this loads. I can complete that, and then I'll just quickly speed this up. Right. So now if you see here, I can train the same troops that I just trained from level 6 to level 7. I can then train them to level 8.
Mm-hmm.
So that same level 6 troops, I've trained them to level 6. I've then upped them to level 7. Right. Then I can speed this up, and as you see, my arms race score is going up.
Mm-hmm.
So I've then trained those same troops. I'll just complete this. I can then take those same troops from level 8 to level 9, and I'll just speed my 10 up from before. And then when I speed those up, right, I've got those 9 troops, and now I can take those level 9 troops to level 10.
Mm.
Right, and if you see, I've only trained 1 barracks worth of troops, but because I've sped them up, I've now finished. I've already finished my arms race. Now,
Mm.
this is really important because instead of just training level 10 troops, you can take the same troops and you can train them to 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And as you notice now, I'm 5th in arms race and I haven't really done much. So the reason that's important is with Verse, on day 5, when you have training total mobilization, um, it will show you here that you can train troops. So instead of just training troops at one level, you can train them to level 6 or whatever your lowest high level, and you can train the troops 5 more times. So what that means is during arms race and during verse on day 5,
Mm-hmm.
all of your troops you can have essentially you can train them throughout the week. All of your troops you train them at level 6, as I'll show here. And you can do that over the 12-hour period or whatever. And then when it comes to arms race, where you want to win that arms race, or on day 5, where you need to put a lot of points down in verse, you can train them all again and upskill them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a key way in which you can massively increase your points in your arms race and during day 5. Now, also as well, when players, particularly newer players who aren't powerful, that will shield during a fight on day 6 on the enemy buster, some of them will struggle to get points, right? And particularly if they lose a bunch of troops. So instead of trying to fight and lose a bunch of troops, what you can do is you can use all of your training speed ups on that day 6, and you can train those troops 5 times. And so that enables you to get the 7.2 mil on the battle day if you're not around, or if you're too weak to fight because your opponent is too high. So that's a key way in which you can get a lot of points. And in our alliance, for example, we give out trains and other perks based on your contribution to the alliance. So that's a key strategy for getting more points in verse, which helps your alliance. But also another key thing is for the first 18 months that I played the game, it's gone to the new arms race, right? I won the arms race every single day, or 6 out of 7 days a week, because I did 2 things. One is I did a bunch of training, retrain those troops in unit progression, and then the other thing I did was use a little bit of extra XP on the hero environment advancements, right? And obviously, as you'll see, if you're in the top places, you get additional rewards here. So if you're a new player and you want to win arms race to get all of this additional rewards, the way in which you do that, and even VIP 18s, even the top players, you can beat them if you simply use that strategy in arms race and use a little bit of X on the other areas where that arms race window is. So yeah, that's a key strategy. But just a quick one on that. To do that, you need to have your barracks in a specific way. So you'll note here that my first barracks is at level 23. And the reason for that is if I try and train troops, the max troops I can train is level 7. So by doing that, I can train level 6 troops. And then when I upskill them, when I improve them, the max I can do is level 7. If that barracks was higher than that, so for example this barracks, which is level 26, when I want to upskill them, let's say I take those, I can only upskill them to level 8. I can't go from 6 to 7. So what level your barracks are matter. So level 23 is my first one, level 26, level 29, and this one is at level 35, right? So by having my barracks in that specific order, I know that I can train level 6 troops on all 4 barracks, and then I can upskill them to the next level each time. So yeah, that's how you have to organize that. But obviously there is a caveat. We've now just yesterday had announcements of level 11 troops. So I don't know how it will be on your server, whether you get them at the same time, but obviously you have to have a level 35 barracks to do that. So with the exception of level 11, which has just been announced, that is the optimal way to train troops. And that is how you can win arms race virtually every single day. And also how you can get a lot of points for your alliance and for yourself during day 5 and 6. So yeah, very important. And it's not something that people know about.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a helpful tip. And I don't know, for the viewer watching too, like, I don't know if you guys saw this, but the training time is significantly lower when you train it that way versus just doing it normally, like where you just click on level 6, level 7 troops, whatever it is, and then you train it normally. It's probably going to be anywhere from maybe 16 to or 18 to who knows, maybe over a day for tier 10s. Whereas with level 6, and then you hit the little upgrade button, it's 3 hours for every single increment, or like 2.5 hours, something like that. So it definitely saves. Well, it's a lot quicker, and you can maximize your points a lot easier doing it that way on those specific time periods. So yeah, it's a great tip. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, and as you can see here, I've just gone in and trained them, so I won't need to use any speed ups, because by the same time tomorrow that you have the arms race window where you have the training, these will all be done and ready. So I can just click accept, and then I can train them. So that also enables you to save your speed ups as well.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting tip about the training with the barracks and stuff like that. I know you've also talked to me a little bit about there's some kind of randomness algorithm with these different crates. Can you dive deeper on that for the viewers watching?
Yeah, so when you have crates that you get from rewards from events,
Mm-hmm.
there's an interesting quirk with the way in which you get crates. So if, for example, I show you this crate here
Mm-hmm.
when this loads, any box that has a randomness to it and a probability of getting specific rewards,
Mm-hmm.
if you were to click on, let's say, one box, or 5 boxes or 10 boxes and try and open them, the odds of you getting any of these are obviously these probabilities, but there is something that is happening with the algorithm whereby, um, in theory, for example, this 5K is 0.01%.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to open 2 or 3,000 boxes at once, however, the odds of you getting this are far, far higher. And so there is probably something going on with the algorithm there where if you open one box, all of these probabilities are true. But if you open, say, 2,000 boxes at once, probably then multiplying this probability by the 2,000. And so, for example, I opened 2,500 of these boxes yesterday and I got the 5K.
Oh, nice.
So, for example, if I try and open one now, or even if I just open 13, right, you see these are, you get simple basic rewards, right? And if I
Mm-hmm.
try and open, let's say, I don't know, 21 of them, again, you get some of the rewards. But now if I open 1,500 at once, right, you see I get a lot more of the rarer rewards
Mm-hmm.
here. So, for example, this tactical box, you've got 10K is obviously the one you want, and then obviously this, right? Now I've got 400. Let's open 400 at once and see what happens. So you see, I get a lot more of the SSR rewards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the same is also true here of these. So when people complain about, if you've got your components, the components on the left side, you seem to have a lot more of them than the ones on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the probabilities are slightly skewed. So if you open up a single box, the odds are is you're going to get one from the left side. Whereas if you open up 100 at once, like this, if I open up 33 at once, you see I get a much more distributed amount
Mm-hmm.
of the rewards. So the advice would be that, again, here, right, if I open up 125 at once, you
Mm-hmm.
see I get the monuments. So in any crate in Last War where there is a randomness, you want to open them up in as big as quantity as possible, so that the odds of you getting the rarest rewards are maximized.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a little thing you won't notice, particularly those events where they bring out those base skins and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Those events, they happen about every 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Again, there with those rewards, if you open up the crates one by one, day by day, you'll never get any of the rare rewards or those tickets. Whereas if you open them all at the end, then you're much more likely. So, for example, these crates, I only open them once every 2 weeks. So, let's say week one in the on day 3 when it's the tech day, I'll use all my speed ups on my tech,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next week when I've got like hundreds of these, I'll open them up all at once. So I'll get a much more distributed box load. So yeah,
Yeah.
little tip on randomness there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I never heard that one before. How did you figure that out? Did someone tell you, or was it just kind of trial and error, or how did you come up with that?
Yeah, just trial and error. It just worked out that when you'd open them up 10 or by day, you wouldn't get much. But if you waited 4 or 5 days, or you open up a bunch at once, it seems to be that the odds of you getting the rarest rewards are much higher. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I know you've also mentioned to me something about that you are really good at, or you have kind of like a method for getting skill medals and ore super efficiently. Did you want to dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, so a lot of players complain about not having enough ore and enough skill medals
Mm-hmm.
in the game. So for reference, if I just bring up my teams, so obviously I have been playing a lot longer than most players. So I've been playing for 2 years, 2 months. But all 3 teams have maximum ore and maximum skill level. So they're all at the maximum possible level, with the exception, obviously, of if I need blueprints, etc. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
all of my top 3 teams have maximum ore, and they're all max skill. Right. So if I show you here, all max skill.
Nice.
With the exception, obviously, of the exclusive weapons, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've not spent a single penny on that. So, my ore and skill medals, particularly skill medals, are equal to someone in the VIP 16, maybe the low end of VIP 17.
Mm-hmm.
And the main way I achieve that is with your tasks. So, a lot of people immediately go for the or the orange task just because they're orange.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, if you see here, when I've used my secret mobile squad, I've gone for the books. Now, the books contain ore, and then the other ones are this bullseye with the skills. So if you notice here, I've got 2K skills, I think here, 3K, and there's one more up here somewhere. And then in ore, I've got 900, 1.8K, was it 3.6K, etc. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't do the mega refresh, and I don't select an ore one just because of it. I specifically select the books and the bullseyes. So any orange or purple bullseyes, they're going to give you these skill medals and this ore, right? So if you imagine 3.6K a day for medals, and for that, compounded over 7 days, compounded over weeks, that's a lot of extra skill medals. So I yield roughly 150 to 200K skill medals a week.
Nice.
And then obviously I use them all again on today, actually.
Yep.
So again, by doing that, you also enable yourself to save all of your XP and all of your hero shards, because you can pretty much max out your points on verse just by using your exclusive weapon shards and your skill medals, etc. So again, this also plays into how you're keeping all of your skill medals and everything else, right? So like in here, if I go to stats, I've got 28 Gs of hero X because I haven't needed to use them, right?
True.
But yeah, I mean, that's a key way you can get them. The other key way to get ore is in the Bullseye Bounty. So there's an event for newer players that may not know. There's an event called Bullseye Bounty. And if you save all of your, if I bring up my Bullseye Bounty here somewhere. Yeah, so if you save all of your bullets, what you can do is to get the orange and red blueprints in the Bullseye Bounty, you need about 650 to 700 bullets. So if you were to get the maximum each day and just buy the smallest one, I think it's the $5 one in the Bullseye Bounty, about every 3 months, you should be able to get 20 to 50K in ore, plus you get a bunch of orange and red blueprints all at once. So I think those are the two key ways you get ore and you get medals. And obviously you can tailor this, right? So if you need a lot more skill medals, then just go for these bullseye ones and you can get more skill medals. So yeah, that's how I'd advise, particularly newer players or players that don't spend much on how they can, get to this level. And you particularly with skill medals, you don't have to spend a penny. I haven't, and I have all of my heroes in all 3 teams all at max as a result of this.
Yeah. So kind of a question on that. So I know you said, so do you not, okay, for me personally, what I usually do is with the tasks like that, I usually always go for gold, but like do all the gold ones not have the skill medals or the ores?
No, they don't.
Okay.
And that's the thing, right? So you have to be very careful, right? A lot of them will just have like speed ups and they'll have iron and ore and all of that. Now, obviously, if you're just starting the game, okay, fine. But in general, ore is much harder to get than the iron or the speed ups. You can get speed ups and crates, all of this all day. The rare things are the ore, the skill medals, and obviously the oil as well. So you always want to look at the task. Just because it's an nerd doesn't mean you should get it. And also, this also goes for looting. People just look for all of the urs to loot, but you notice there's a big disparity here between what you get on the ones and sometimes what you can get on the SSR ones. So if I see if I can find a few, so you see here, right? There's 50 medals, and this is a blue one. So actually, look, don't just go for the orange ones just because they're orange. You might want to be more selective.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess I've never really paid enough attention to the the rewards there. I just saw, okay, it's gold, and also, well, especially on certain hero days, obviously the gold tasks give you points, but also I know the puzzle pieces can be pretty valuable as well. So I usually just always do all gold because of the hidden treasure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, with hidden treasures, you once you get up to a certain point, you get a bunch
Oh,
of
wow,
these
yours looks
anyway.
cool.
Does it look different for you?
Yeah, mine looks way more bland. It's like
Oh, okay.
super bland.
I know they upgraded it at some point. I wonder if they haven't done it for you.
hmm
But yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Anyway,
What about your tech? Because I know obviously you've been playing for quite a while, so your tech is pretty much like maxed, I'm assuming. Um,
yeah.
what would you say is the best way of optimizing your tech?
Yeah, so this one's a bit controversial,
hmm
but many players, when they start the game, they'll immediately try and get special forces as soon as possible, so then get level 10 troops. They'll
hmm
also try and max units,
hmm
and they'll try and max things like mastery.
hmm
I've done this a different way. As you can see, I've maxed out virtually all of the tech,
hmm
and in about 2 months, I'll have finished defense fortifications and oil and mastery. If I show
hmm
you just as an example, one of these here, if I show you the bottom one, right?
hmm
If you see here, the original time for this search is 19 days, and um, the new time is 5 days.
hmm
So I achieved that in a variety of ways. The first thing I did with tech is instead of trying to go for power with units and special forces, instead I prioritized development, the economy, because the development allows your buildings to build faster and your research to be done faster, and the
hmm
economy allows you to get more resources quicker. The
hmm
same is even true of Age of Oil. I assume the new players won't, on the later servers, won't know about this. But even in Age of Oil, um, you know, I've got this maxed out, and that's 25% extra gold.
hmm
So what I did is I initially prioritized the resources and the speed up of building and research time, those
hmm
techs, and I sacrificed early power. And the result of that is now, even with the most complicated techs, most of them are only sort of 2 or 3 days.
hmm
And with free speed up time, because I'm in a big alliance, that normally cuts out half a day.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, um, with your profession, because I'm profession level 100,
hmm
um, I can do all of this. So actually, I've
hmm
got research now. So let's just quickly. So you see here, I've got all these researchers are at 1 day.
hmm
And if I go to research now, let's see how much time that takes off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that took off, 18 hours or whatever it is, right? So
hmm
because I've got the high research level, and just for new players, that's when you get it in the season. So if you use a lot of stamina and X in the season, then you can get a much higher profession. I'm obviously level 100,
hmm
but if you have the engineer level, then you can research a lot faster.
hmm
So the combination of researching faster because of my profession, along with the help with my alliance because I'm in a big alliance,
hmm
and along with other things such as I've prioritized the researches that allow me to build faster, to research faster, and to research
hmm
um, with less cost, has meant that now basically, unless you're pretty much only the VIP 17s and 18s have better tech than me.
hmm
And probably within 4 months, maybe 5 months, I'll have completed all of the techs.
hmm
Um, so yeah, that'll be my advice. Prioritize getting your resources, prioritize your profession, and prioritize building the techs that allow you to get more resources
hmm
early. You'll sacrifice power, but then the result of that is later you'll catch up.
Yeah.
Um,
What about with I always feel like I have way more construction speedups than research speedups. Like, is that a common thing?
um, well, yes and no. So again, it depends on what crates you're getting, right? So
hmm
we go back to the secret items here, right? So depending on which ones you get, you'll get more speed ups for research speed ups.
Oh yeah.
Other factors such as your digs. So in digs, depending on what digs you get, you'll get research speed ups, etc. But I mean, ultimately, if you're involved in all of the events, Desert Storm, Winter Storm, Canyon Storm, your Warzone Duel, you should have plenty of speed ups for everything, really. And ideally, right? And again, when I showed that tech, I don't spend money on tech speed ups. I don't need to, because I'm involved in all of the events. It means that I have enough. Again, it's the other thing as well is it's also how you use them. So for example, if you've got a bunch of researches you're doing and they're all like 7 days, and now you come into your arms race window like right now, and you're like, right, I need to increase my tech power to get these boxes. If all of your items are 7 days, then you have to use a bunch of research speed ups in order to get to that level. Whereas, as you can see, I've got mine at not very high, so I can complete a research speed up and do it there. So if you've got less research speed ups, you might find that being more careful on which researches you do may assist you in saving them, right? So I generally have one that's a long one, 5, 8, 10 days or whatever, and then 2 that are lesser. So I know that every day I can complete one of them for the arms race, and then on the big day for tech day, I'm making sure that I'm doing one of the aircraft mastery or one of the ones with mastery, particularly because they use these honor medals, which is another very important point, actually. So certain researches require these valor medals. And so when you're in day 3, that's your tech day and verse, you want to be using, when you trigger a research, you want to be triggering a research that has valor medals as a requirement in it, because that's going to, if I just bring verse up and I bring day 3 up, Age of Science, you'll note that using one valor badge adds a lot of points in your verse, right? So you want to be very careful about what researches that you do in what order. So on non-tech day, basically any day except that day, you want to be triggering your researches in relation to resources or your heroes or squads, etc. But then on that tech day, you want to be using special forces, defense, and particularly mastery, whichever your main squad is. But obviously don't do that too much, because you'll run out of honor medals. So yeah, just another little tip there.
What are your thoughts about doing defense fortifications before the mastery? You think that's a good idea?
Well, it's pros and cons of all of them. So if you do defense fortifications first, then in your verse, so if you look at a tech battle, if you go into verse, for example, in your arena rather, and if you go into records, so if I show, so this one is one that got defeated, and if I show you my main squad, and I show you the army, pay close attention here. So I'm on the right. So my tech is 9.5 mil here. This is a defense battle, right? So when you're the defender, your defense fortification matters. When you're the attacker, your siege to siege matters more. So you see I'm 9.5 mil in tech there. Whereas if I go to one in which, let's just actually just start one. When this loads, 45, 2 seconds. Well, that should win. Okay. Now, if I go to this battle here and I go back to the army, note here how my tech is 10.9 mil.
Oh, yeah.
So that discrepancy is because I'm the attacker. So when you're the attacker, your siege to siege matters. When you're the defender, your defense fortification matters.
Gotcha.
So, what you'll find is if you do your defense fortifications first, when you log into your arena, you'll find you've probably lost less battles. Whereas if you did siege to siege like I did, it means that you can attack more and you'll win on the attack more, but you'll lose more on the defense. And the same is true, obviously, if you're on a battlefield on war day, right? If you're attacked, the defense fortifications matter more, and obviously if you're on the offense. So it's pros and cons. Ideally, you want them all maxed, but it's pros and cons on which ones you do. In terms of power, the correct way, I deliberately didn't do it the correct way, but the correct order in terms of power, if I go back to tech, obviously if you don't have level 10 troops, then that would be the one to prioritize. Yeah, so if I go to research, in terms of power, special forces is great because it will allow you to get to level 10 troops. That's obviously a massive priority. The more you do on units, the more powerful your units will be. And you'll see that in the battle reports. You can drill down into a battle report and you'll see that, if, for example, your units is not as well trained, then their units will be their morale, for example, will be much higher than yours. But ultimately, the most powerful thing you can do is mastery. So whatever your main squad is, upping the mastery to near 100% is most powerful. And most players on the early servers, their mastery for their main squad will be maxed. So if you're looking for just raw power, mastery is special forces. If you haven't maxed it, do that. But then mastery, and obviously defense and siege to siege. But again, bear in mind, these take up a lot of gold, and so you need to be careful not to run out of gold, because if you try and do that too quickly, then you'll find that you won't have resources for doing your buildings and for upping your hero weapons. So again, this is where you need to alternate between days off where you're not on tech day, doing your standard researches. Things like defense fortifications is quite cheap. So if I just select one of those, the resources aren't that expensive. Whereas if I go to mastery, it's 150 mil gold per level, right? So yeah, pros and cons, but yeah, those are the main ones you want. And then obviously siege to siege is the offensive, defense fortification is the defensive. So any battle report you have, you can drill down into that and you can see all of the comparisons that will show you that.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for jumping on the podcast, Daniel. That's pretty much all the questions I had for you.
Sure, no worries. Thanks. I'm happy to be here. And maybe in a few months we can catch up again and post the next season and see.
Yeah, that'd be interesting for sure. Season 5.